the air.
Hey, welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Your English will improve today. I hope that you believe it. I do. Thank you for joining us here today. We've got a great lesson. My name is Gabe, and here's a question for you. How good are you at creating images of people on your computer? Have you ever made an avatar of yourself or somebody else? Well, if you have the right technology, you may be able to create a video of someone who looks exactly like a real famous person, and you could make them say or do anything you want. The name of today's lesson is Deep Fakes. Our lesson will discuss what deep fakes are and why they could be dangerous. Well, you know what? I'm just Gabe's deep fake avatar. He's actually inside waiting for you. So let's go.
Deep fakes. When seeing shouldn't be believing. As technology improves, it is becoming easier and easier to make fake audio, video, or images of people that are utterly convincing. These deep fakes are made using a process called deep learning. Deep learning pits two artificial intelligence AI programs against each other. One produces fake content. The other receives a stream of real and fake content and tries to figure out which are which. Both programs learn from each other. The process continues until the program producing the fakes can fool the other program. This can result in very convincing footage of people doing and saying things they never did or said.
Hello everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 今天要看的第一个字是 utterly。utterly 是一个副词，意思是十足的、完全的或是彻底的。譬如说 ，The child was utterly heartbroken when he saw his favorite toy torn apart。小朋友看到他最心爱的玩具被撕破的时候，心就完全碎了。或是 The show was utterly ridiculous. I can't believe we paid money to go see it. 那场表演真的是完全的荒谬，我无法相信我们竟然花了钱去看。还有一句 Dorothy was utterly embarrassed when she spilled coffee on her boss. Dorothy 感到丢脸极了，因为她不小心把咖啡洒到她的老板身上。接下来我们要看的字是 footage。在文章里 footage 的意思是一段影片，譬如说Tony showed us some of the footage he got from his trip to the beach. Tony 给我们看他去海滩的那一趟所录到的一些片段。或是 This footage is not very clear. We need to get a better one. 这段影片很模糊，我们需要拿到比较清楚一点的。Footage 也有用英尺计算的意思。如果前面加了 square， 也就是 square footage， 意思就是平方英尺。譬如说 Before Mandy gets new carpet for her room, she needs to calculate the square footage. Mandy 要为房间买新地毯之前，要先算出房间的平方英尺。
Thank you very much, Jack. And hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you today as we talk about this idea of deep fakes. My name is Rebecca.
And friends, I'm the real Gabe, not that deep fake you saw earlier. But we're learning about this interesting idea that came up in technology just a couple years ago, or not too long in the past, deep fakes. And we read here, when seeing shouldn't be believing. Now that reminds me of a phrase, a more common phrase that people sometimes say, and that is, seeing is believing. People say this usually to communicate that they will believe something when they see it. They know that if they can see something with their own eyes, then they can really believe it.
That's right. But sometimes just because you see something doesn't mean that you should necessarily believe it. And that's this whole idea of deep fakes. You see it, but is it actually true? Should you really, really believe it? Perhaps not.
That's right. There's a famous story in the Bible when Jesus rose from the dead. Many of his disciples saw him, but there's a famous character we now call Doubting Thomas because he thought seeing is believing. He wanted to see Jesus after he rose from the dead before he believed that Jesus rose from the dead. And Jesus had some famous words. Blessed are those who do not see and yet still believe. And as our lesson implies, seeing shouldn't always be believing. Just because you see something doesn't mean you should believe everything about it.
That's right, and great story. Okay, well, let's get straight into our lesson. We read, as technology improves, it is becoming easier and easier to make fake audio, video, or images of people that are utterly convincing. This is actually a very scary idea.
Yeah, I don't know if it started out as something someone wanted to do to scare other people. I think people are just curious about technology and how to use it, and maybe they're very creative, and so they think, oh, cool, I can make this video look exactly like this other person. But of course, like you said, it can be scary, and we're going to find out it can be dangerous.
We read, these deep fakes are made using a process called deep learning. Deep learning pits two artificial intelligence, AI, programs against each other. And we would like to take a look at this phrase, to pit against each other, or pit one thing against something else.
Yeah, I love this phrase. We don't talk about this very often. I can't think of a time in my time at Studio Classroom where we've talked about this phrase in your magazine. It hasn't appeared very much, but it's a great phrase to know. When you pit one thing against another, that means you do something so that these two other things are now against each other. Perhaps they're fighting against each other or competing in some way.
That's right. For example, in the 1800s, the Civil War in America was terrible because it pitted neighbor against neighbor, family member against family member, friend against friend. It was just a terrible time.
That's right. And your example kind of makes me think of the media and the news these days. If we're not careful, we can allow the media to pit us against each other. People who used to be neighbors and friends or family members are now against each other. Well, in our lesson, Deep Learning pits two AI programs against each other. One produces fake content, the other receives a stream of real and fake content and tries to figure out which are which.
That's right. We read both programs learn from each other. The process continues until the program producing the fakes can fool the other program. Let's take a look at that word, to fool.
That's right. This word fool makes me think of April 1st. We call that April Fool's Day, right? When you try to do something to trick somebody else or to prank somebody else. That's kind of the idea here. When you fool somebody, you're tricking them into doing or to believing something.
That's right. For example, my dad can't fool me. He tried to pretend that he was Santa Claus, but I knew it was actually him, my dad, who came to the door.
Great example. So, of course, deep fakes, we read, this can result in very convincing footage, that is video footage, of people doing and saying things they never did or said. We have more to learn about why this is dangerous later, but right now it's time for us to learn something new in the Info Cloud.
Welcome back to InfoCloud, friends. You look frustrated, Rex. What's wrong?
I talked to Steve for over an hour. I'm trying to persuade him not to buy a summer home in Greece.
Wow. Greece? Are you serious? Wouldn't that be expensive?
Steve saw an ad on Facebook that said you can buy a summer home on a private island in Greece for only $800 US. He contacted the company that listed the ad and is seriously thinking of going through with it.
That sounds too good to be true. This term means that whatever you are hearing sounds too perfect. It can't possibly be real. There may be something wrong with it that you haven't seen yet.
Another similar idiom we might use is all that glitters is not gold, which means something that looks very attractive may not have any value.
For example, just because a necklace is gold colored and looks like it's made of gold does not mean it's made of gold. It might be made of a much cheaper metal.
Just like Steve's summer home in Greece, there's no way something so wonderful could be so inexpensive.
Yes, be cautious. If something sounds too good to be true, make sure to do thorough checking on it before making a decision. Remember, all that glitters is not gold.
当一件事情表面上看起来很好，但实际上却是有陷阱的，你可以用 too good to be true 来形容。Too good to be true 就是在表达有那么好吗？听起来有点夸张，真实性应该不高。例如，有一则广告说，一栋豪宅要贱价卖出，价钱便宜的不太合理。这个时候，你就可以说 That sounds too good to be true。那听起来太好，不可能是真的。另外还有一个英文的俚语 All that glitters is not gold。这些闪烁的发光物不是黄金，意思就是看起来闪闪发光很吸引人，但却没有什么真实的价值，跟 too good to be true 几乎是在表达一样的意思。这就是今天的 Info Cloud， 我们下次云端见。
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom. We're learning all about deep fakes. How are deep fakes made? Well, we learned earlier that they're made with a process called deep learning. So there are two artificial intelligence programs that are pitted against each other, and they get to the point of fooling each other. But are deep fakes dangerous or are they okay? Let's find out a little bit more about that right now.
Deep fakes. Deep fakes are dangerous for a number of reasons. Some experts fear that they could influence elections. If a persuasive deepfake of a politician saying something controversial comes out just before an election, it might influence voters. Deepfakes could also be used to embarrass or blackmail people for things they never said or did. Other experts fear that deepfakes can erode trust. Not only might people be fooled by fake videos, but they could also be tricked into thinking real videos are actually deep fakes. This could lead to people giving up trying to distinguish fact from fiction.
Controversial 是一个形容词，意思是有争议的，或是会引起争议的。譬如说 ，James wants to go watch that controversial movie, but his wife isn't interested in going. James 想去看那部有争议的影片，但是他的太太却没有兴趣跟他去看。或是 The actress is always doing something controversial in order to keep herself in the media spotlight. 那位女演员老是做一些会引起争议的事，好能够一直成为媒体的焦点。还有一句 The professor refused to talk about anything controversial in his class. 那位教授拒绝在他的课堂中谈论任何会引起争议的话题。最后我们要看的字是动词 erode. To erode 的意思是逐渐侵害，导致最后被破坏。譬如说 It is not good to drink pure lemon juice because the acid can erode your teeth. 最好不要喝纯的柠檬汁，因为里面的酸会侵蚀牙齿。或是 The people living by the ocean are worried because the beach is eroding. 住在海边的居民们担心着海滩正被侵蚀。不过在文章里 To erode 的意思是对感觉、情感或是意识的逐渐破坏。譬如说 William has been working on a difficult assignment and it has eroded his sense of determination. William 在忙一个很艰难的差事，而他的决心已渐渐被磨掉了。Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Yes, but some of those examples were a little bit controversial. I'm just kidding. They were all great. Thanks, Jack.
All right, friends. Well, let's get right into our lesson about deepfakes. Deepfakes are dangerous for a number of reasons. Some experts fear that they could influence elections. Imagine that, Gabe. A deepfake could actually influence an election?
Well, that's what a lot of people fear, and deepfakes have influenced people before in the sense that when people see this footage, a lot of people believe footage of deepfakes. So it could happen again, right? And you saw in the end of that first sentence there the phrase "for a number of reasons." That's not just referring to a few. Usually when we say a number of reasons, it means several or many reasons. But some experts fear this could influence elections if a persuasive deep fake of a politician saying something controversial comes out just before an election. It might influence voters. Perhaps that's what a lot of people want to do.
Deepfakes could also be used to embarrass or blackmail people for things they never said or did. We would like to take a look at that word blackmail. What does this mean?
Oh, right. Yeah, this is a very important word, I think, in today's world. But I think people have been blackmailing others all throughout history. It's good to be aware of when it happens. So, blackmail, that is when you demand payment or a benefit of some kind in return for not revealing damaging information about somebody else. You have some information, and if you show the world, it will damage their reputation. So you say, I won't show that to other people if you give me some money or give me what I want.
Okay, here's an example as to how to use this word if you are in a position of authority. If you're a leader or a politician of some sort, any mistake that you make could actually leave you open to be blackmailed.
It's true. There's footage of people doing weird things or embarrassing things or shameful things, and they didn't know that people were taking a video or taking an audio recording, and those kinds of things can be used as blackmail. It's good for you to know that word. It's not nice to do it. Actually, it's illegal most places in the world to blackmail other people.
That's right. Well, we read other experts fear that deep fakes can erode trust. Not only might people be fooled by fake videos, but they could also be tricked into thinking real videos are actually deep fakes. Let's take a look at that phrase, to be tricked into something.
Yeah, this is kind of like the single word fool that we talked about earlier, right? If you're fooling somebody, you're tricking them, so you can trick somebody into doing something. That means you trick them in a way that causes them to do something or causes them to think or believe something.
That's right. For example, when I first came to Taipei, I was definitely tricked into eating stinky tofu. I didn't know what I was eating. It was the type that didn't have that really strong smell.
Yeah.
But as soon as I took a bite, I knew it was stinky tofu.
That's fun. It's fun to trick people into doing some things. That's what people like to do on April Fool's Day. But it's not nice, especially when you're blackmailing other people, or especially if you're tricked into thinking that real videos are actually deep fakes, or tricked into thinking that a deep fake is a real video. We read here, this could lead to people giving up trying to distinguish fact from fiction. Let's take a look at that phrase. When you distinguish one thing from another, that means you're seeing how they are different.
That's right. For example, sometimes it's difficult to distinguish truth from a lie because the lie sounds so much like the truth.
And that's the idea behind deep fakes, or the purpose for some deep fakes anyway. People want to make it difficult to distinguish fact from fiction. Well, I think that it could be a challenge to distinguish fact from fiction sometimes. And speaking of challenges, we have our own SC challenge.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's SE challenge where we always have a fun challenge. Well, before we get started, let's meet today's players.
Hi everyone, I'm Linda and I'm so glad to be here.
And I'm David, and I'm excited to be playing the challenge game with all of you.
Oh yes, our players are excited and I'm sure you are as well. Well, for today's SE challenge, our players get to create a story. They have to work together to create a story. Players, are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we have the words controversial, process, convincing, expert, embarrass, and trust. You must use these words in the story. Okay, players, who's going to start?
I can start.
Okay, Linda, go for it.
So, in the news, there was a controversial case.
Okay, controversial, excellent. And then, David, what happens?
The court process involved people from all over the city.
Okay, so we have the word process. Excellent. And then what happens, Linda?
So, at trial, the lawyers had to be very convincing.
Convincing. Good. And then, David, what happens?
They brought in some expert detectives to talk about the evidence.
Excellent. Expert. Next.
But one of the witnesses was very embarrassed.
Was very embarrassed. Oh, no. And, David, how does the story end?
Well, it was hard for the judge to trust that witness's testimony because he seemed so embarrassed about what he was saying.
Oh, wow. Did they solve the case?
I don't know.
Eventually.
Eventually.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, very good story, very good use of these words. And I'm sure, friends, you were able to create your own story as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for playing along. And we'll see you all next time.
Well, how did you do with that challenge? If you would like another challenge, how about putting your writing skills to the test? Go and check out pages 54 and 55 of your Studio Classroom magazine to do that. And make sure you check out our latest 好想讲英文 video. And we have more to learn about deep fakes and what we can do about the problem of deep fakes next time right here on Studio Classroom. See you then.
A good friend lasts a lifetime. I am so proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.